Just as someone who plans on going into a journalism career, just what kind of tips can you give me?
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Just what tips can you give me? Because I plan on going into a career in journalism.
You do? Okay. Go for it. It's the greatest job in the world. If they sent somebody if somebody came from Mars and spent a year in the United States and then went back to Mars, and the other Martian said, who in the United States has the best job? They'd say the journalists. Because as a journalist, you get to make a momentary entry into people's lives when they're interesting, and then get the hell out when they cease to be interesting. He's already signed up. Because in so many professions, law, medicine, you deal with the routine time and time again. In journalism, by definition, you are to deal with what's not routine. You are supposed to be, we start in the morning at the Washington Post and we ask questions like, what's going on? What does it mean? What is hidden? What is not known? What has meaning, potentially, in people's lives? And that's what we try to find out about. And in other professions, you can't, as a lawyer, go to the office and say, gee, I think I'm going to work on that case that's going to go to the Supreme Court. You have to have clients. You have to have patients in medicine. So, yeah.
What can non-journalists do in order to not accept information at face value and expose corruption?
I mean, that's the hardest thing in the world, and that's how you assess, particularly with such partisanship, the great partisan divide, particularly in Washington. It's hard for journalists to make that assessment. Now, I think there's a point where you can, you know it when you see it as somebody presenting a balanced account, because in the end, everything has to be balanced. And in so much reporting, it's just not. And look, we have to be very direct with you. I worry deeply about the journalism profession. We have less money, and so there's less in-depth reporting. Get it out real quick. When I do one of my projects, or when Carl Bernstein and I were working on Watergate, we could work 2 or 3 weeks on one story. Now, if somebody gets wind that you have an incremental advance on a story, they want you to get it on the website in an hour. And if you work an hour on something, you're not going to get to the bottom. And so we get lots of things that are just the top of events. And as I've done this for 4 decades, you have to go back to people. You have to present notes, you have to present documents, because everyone has the party line down. And if you just interview them once, you're going to find out not much. But if you go back and demonstrate to them you're serious, my real worry is that we're going to miss something. We're going to miss something really serious. And I'm not predicting this, but things like this could happen. Take the Food and Drug Administration. They don't have the capacity to investigate all the food and drugs that come into this country from abroad. And you could there's some countries who don't have any standards of surveillance of food and drugs, and you could get drugs or food into this country, and you would have a kind of medical 9/11 where thousands of people get sick or even worse die. Should that happen, and let's hope it doesn't, people are going to say, yeah, where was the Food and Drug Administration? Where was the government doing its job? But then they're going to go and say, where was the media? This is their job to warn us about things like that. And we don't have the resources, and they're not making the effort to do that.
You said that you have to take an empirical stance on
whenever you're reporting, how do you prevent yourself from having your own personal opinions get into you those?
You have to bleach them out. And you realize that if that gets in the way of the fact-finding, you're not going to do as good a job. Now, we all have opinions and biases, but when you do this, even for a short period, you realize they're true believers on the side, on the left, on the right, in politics or anything. And when you dig under that, you see that true believers often have the wrong answer. And you have to kind of insulate yourself and not become a true believer. You have to really have an open mind. You have to, I'm really listening. Last week I was at the White House going over some material I'm working on, and a number of them in the West Wing were arguing very strongly against what I was saying and so forth. And I said, I've got an open mind. I am listening. And that's the posture you need to be in.
And I was just wondering, what was going through your mind when you knew you were about to publish information that eventually led to the resignation of a president?
You check it very carefully, and then you go home with a lump in your tummy, to be honest with you, because we were writing information from sources. We didn't have documents, we didn't have video, we didn't even know about Nixon's taping system, and we were in an environment at the Washington Post where we had editors, and the top editor, Ben Bradley, is, truly probably the great newspaper editor of the era. And his greatness was not just what he put in the paper, but when he put on the brakes and said, no, we're not publishing this, it's not ready, we don't have it nailed down. And he did that many, many times, and that caution, that filter, saved us. At the same time, we made some mistakes. And so it's a very tense time, and you need to, again, it's an intellectual process of putting yourself in the position of, well, I've got this information, got one source, you need to get a second source, you need to confirm it in any way that's possible. But I'm telling you, that lump in the tummy is there almost every night.